Well, welcome everybody. As Evan Flagg here, co-founder of Accelerated Sports Career Academy. It's my pleasure to be joined by three preeminent software and technology providers here in the sports world. I'm going to let them introduce their products and kind of talk about their niche within the sports industry, and then we'll take a deep dive. But I'm really excited for all of our ASCA alum and our prospective candidates to be able to listen in on this panel today. As well as our friends in the industry checking in, because these are three great solutions. And we certainly, I think the trend of technology in sports is only going to get stronger and stronger as more creative solutions are applied to some of our ever-challenging problems and challenges here in sports. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my main man, Jamie. Why don't you kick us off, Jamie, and tell us a little bit about FIVO for those that don't know it or probably bought a ticket but never realized they were utilizing your platform.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. First off, obviously just want to lead off by saying thank you to you and James and the entire ASCA crew for having us here. You know, we all truly believe that technology has a big role to play in sports ticket sales and service. And I think, given the circumstances of the pandemic, things have only been accelerated by that and how much technology can kind of help fill the gaps between us and the clients. So I'm our Senior Vice President of Partner Success at FIVO. For those of you that don't know what FIVO is, we're basically trying to change the way that e-commerce works. We have created a social cart and innovated this social cart where teams can basically implement us for their theme nights, for their group sales. And the whole purpose of this social cart is two things. One is to be a very simple transaction for your buyers. We want them to be able to buy mobilely on their phones, 2 clicks, and they're done. They're ready to go to the game. The second piece to it is that we want to turn that ticket purchase or that experience purchase into a shareable thing. So at the end of every FIVO transaction, they can go ahead and share that with their network, with their family, with their friends via text, via LinkedIn, drop their link on Instagram, so on and so forth. And they can go ahead and send it out to their personal network, right? Sales 101, you buy off people you like. I'm a lot more likely to buy a ticket to an event if a friend invites me directly than if I just see a commercial on TV or something on the radio. And for our partners, we get to capture more data, grow more sales, and really just expand their reach on a very organic level by basically turning your fans into sellers for your product.
Awesome, Jamie. Love it. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you and experience. Tell us a little bit about your product and kind of how your product's evolved here over time.
Yes, as Jamie mentioned, thanks again to you and James to inviting me to participate and along with experience as well. And it's a great service that you're providing these students and such. And I definitely wish I had this opportunity when I was going through school as well. It might have helped me land those entry-level positions and move up the ladder as well. But it's great. I really appreciate the opportunity here and experience. We are about 7-8 years old now. We're based in Atlanta, and as Jamie mentioned, we are very tech heavy, tech centric, trying to change how folks engage with their tickets and manage those tickets as well. So we've created this flexible ticket technology that is really geared toward the subscription consumer, the subscription buyer. So that subscription buyer is much different than your traditional buyer, traditional consumer. They really value access versus ownership. And as you can imagine, there's so many subscription opportunities out there now. It's around a $400 billion business in that subscription economy. Consumers have at least 4 to 5 different types of subscriptions, whether it's your Prime membership, your Netflix, your Spotify. My wife has her beauty box that comes every quarter, and obviously some sort of gym membership that you might have as well. And we have employees that subscribe to, like, I think it's Butcher Box or Butcher Market Box, and just get their meat delivery. So there's a whole sorts of different subscriptions out there, and so we've really kind of geared our technology toward that consumer who wants that flexibility and convenience. And our schools and our pro team partners have been able to package, this technology in a way, either as a full season subscription pass, probably more predominantly in the college landscape, that do that, and then more on the NBA, MLB side, where it's more of a monthly subscription. So I'm subscribing to a set number of games given that month. I can attend based on when my schedule allows, and if I can't go, then I can easily return my pass, and then I get some credit on our platform. And then the next time I do go, I can purchase a guest ticket. I can purchase a seat upgrade, with that credit. So my experience for the game that I am going to is even that much more elevated. Again, just really harping on flexibility and convenience. And in addition to a different type of buyer from a subscription world, we've also seen data that season tickets and traditional tickets are starting to trend downwards as well. Sky is not falling on season tickets. They are certainly very valuable to teams, to fans, etc. But there are a new type of buyer who just might not want that season ticket experience, and this is an opportunity for them to kind of engage and go to more events than they typically would, maybe just with a single game ticket.
Yeah, I love the way that your product allows us to kind of meet the fans where they are, right? So trying to find a package that might actually be a little bit more flexible for them to engage with. Sati, your tools are one of my favorites as a seller and business development guy over here. Walk us through kind of what OneMob's doing specifically here in the sports industry.
Yeah, thanks again, Evan. I really appreciate being here. It's been awesome to just kind of hear some of the stories already so far and the cool tech. And again, I think what ASCA is doing and really helping students kind of find their footing, it's going to go a long way, not just with their success, but also the good karma for you guys. But yeah, for us, we created our business really around bringing a more personal touch back to the way people sell. And sports is one of those things where, Jamie said it earlier, like you're not selling tickets anymore. You're selling an experience. It's something that's social. It's something that creates memories. And that's something that's been really important to us since day one. And so our platform really helps the seller do that, helps them put that face to a name through video, using our product to create those videos, using our platform to kind of stitch together lots of different assets you might use in the selling cycle, whether it's proposals or, footage of what the suites are going to look like. We can do some really cool things with green screen where you can literally be in any part of the arena and kind of give a Vanna White, if you will, experience and show like, hey, this is what it's going to look like when you sit in these seats, or this is what the suite's going to be like when you invite your team. And it just helps that buyer feel more motivated to move forward with that relationship. And again, it makes that seller less of a salesperson and more of a trusted buyer, trusted advisor, if you will. So that's been our main focus, because we know video is only becoming more and more ubiquitous. And, unfortunately, with the whole coronavirus and the pandemic, it's forced organizations to really think about how to communicate when you can't be there face to face. And that's something that, again, we're trying to help sellers realize, like, even now you're not selling, but that doesn't mean you can still engage your fans and share, experiences and updates and let them know, hey, we're thinking about you guys and soon we're going to have, the games back in session. So that's been our intention since day one, is help that seller be more personal, more human, and help that buyer along their journey so that they can really see the experience before, during, and after.
Absolutely. Awesome. Jamie, I'm going to kick it over to you. You've had a path where you've worked on the team side, kind of like myself and James and most of our ASCA management team. But I'm curious, kind of what skills did you harness here on the team side that you've taken over to your tech side and helped you be successful now, kind of working in what I'd say is distinctly a little bit of a different space than just this traditional team side of sports?
Yeah, no, I definitely, started my sports career with a couple of different sports organizations, worked for the LA Clippers, the Anaheim Angels, the New York Yankees, and the Anaheim Ducks, primarily as a group sales rep. So I would say coming over to the tech world, different product, different everything, but there is some things you can pull from the sales experience that I got. Two of the main things, right? Number one is the connections, having the connections and building that relationship with your clients. When I was a group sales rep, it was all about building that relationship with my group leader. And guess what? The relationships that went the best, that group got bigger and bigger every year. And it seemed to be less work on both me and that group leader. We ended up becoming friends at the end of it, right? So the more you can grow your network and become friends with these people, kind of the easier the group sales was. Similarly, on the FIVO side, I build relationships with people like yourself, Evan, for example. Worked with you back in your UCLA days, now at the LA Kings, worked together on such a close proximity to each other that we get lunch, we get dinner. FIVO, we like to be super person and get to know you guys as people as well. So building that relationship, now you trust us a lot more with some initiatives that you're doing and that you're deploying because of that relationship, because ultimately you trust me and our product, right? So I would say that's one. Number two, the persistence, right? The tenacity of a sales rep, right? You work off commission, you are out there making those calls, you're trying to get people to buy your product. You call people 3-4 times a week sometimes to make sure that you get them in. And guess what? Eventually that persistence pays off and you get some sales. Same thing selling tech, right? We're trying to get our tech in front of a bunch of new clients that have never heard of FIVO before. We were a startup 3.5 years ago. No one had heard of us. We had this vision, we had this image, and we had to go out and sell this vision to clients that would then buy in. And we didn't have any use cases until people did buy in. So the persistence to just stay on top of people and make sure that, hey, not only is this a great product you can use, but hey, we're in tech. We're gonna constantly come out with brand new innovations and brand new features. So having that relationship and being able to stay on top of going after everyone, letting them know, hey, here is what's new from FIVO this year or this month or this week, are the two main things that I've carried over, and it's turned out to be pretty successful. So at the end of the day, I'm selling, right? Sales guy through and through is just I'm selling something that's not tickets anymore.
Love it. Love it. Chris, I'm going to turn over to you, and similar to FIVO, you guys have been around now 7 years, and it's fun. I think we were one of your first clients on the college side when I was at UCLA. And so I really have gotten to see and trial a couple of different products, whether it was seat upgrades to now the subscription model. Talk to me a little bit about a seller or someone that's dedicated to the success of your clients, and how you've had to adopt and communicate those changes to clients as your company has kind of pivoted and moved to different products. And what advice do you have somebody in that's kind of said, hey, you signed up for this job, but now you're kind of transitioning and moving in this direction?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been a fun but a little wild ride as well. Like I mentioned earlier, about 8 years old now, and our products have changed and evolved, and we've really tried to take the stance that we're going from kind of startup to grown up here, right? So kind of been in that maybe grown up phase now for a couple years, and trying to move that a little quicker down the path as well. And I've always been kind of in the startup world a little bit, and I think this is probably the furthest that I've gotten. So that's been a breath of fresh air here, as well. But from a sales standpoint, and what you kind of need to prepare yourself for as you're going to that startup world. I'm sure Jamie has some similar thoughts as well. But you really just have to be flexible and just be ready to change, right? You have to be ready to change based on what the business needs that given day, that given month, that given year, or the next couple of years as well. So certainly as we focused early on as a startup, we built our products. We had an idea, right? The idea was that there's available inventory out there, and we think that this inventory is going unsold and unused, and we would like to have the fan give it the ability to upgrade their seats if there is an opportunity to take advantage of that available inventory that's more lower bowl. So have a little bit of an incremental spend, from the fan. Say, yes, I want to upgrade down to, the sideline seats, from the upper bowl for maybe $40, $50, whatever it may be. So, that was the initial thought process. We went out to market. we thought there was an opportunity. We thought there was a need, and I think we were proven correctly. And as we started to have these discussions, our product evolved based on partner feedback, right? So we built everything really based on what we were hearing in the marketplace. What challenges they were having, and we're not going to go completely pivoting, but how does what their challenges are, how does that align with our technology today? And so you can kind of see that this subscription pass model, we're leading now more with a primary ticket, but then we're bolting on the ability to easily upgrade your seat there as well. So you really just need to adapt with the business. And early on we were, go get as many logos as you can, right? Let's go get market share. Let's go prove the concept. And not only from proving the concept from the team standpoint and the partner standpoint, but really if we didn't have those teams jumped on board, then we didn't have any fans on our platform, right? And so if we didn't have any fans on our platform, then we wouldn't know if what we're selling is actually working, or what we're building is actually working. So, not only did we need teams to buy in, but then we needed fans to buy in too. So then we can actually have more testing and more A/B testing and, see what is working, so we can adopt our technology to not just meet the team's needs, but meet the fans' needs, as well. So, really a lot of, push and pull, internally, externally, just learning, a lot about it. And now that I mentioned, we're going to this, grown up phase of the company, looking at different business models, right? So different business models now that maybe we're less focused on, the adoption that we've had to, be geared toward, but now how do we make this, financially viable for all parties? And it's not just a revenue opportunity for experience. This is a partnership, right? So it's a revenue opportunity for both, our teams, our partners, and also experience, but we got to make it work for both partners. And, I think that we have identified great models now that is really a win-win, for everyone. And it's just a different type of selling than it was before, but you just have to, roll with the punches as you go through, and just expect that type of change if you are, working with, technology startups, or even established technology companies, still have to kind of morph, as well.
Love it. Satsi, I'm turning over to you. One Mob's really been a differentiator for us at the Kings, and the reps that have used it and seen a lot of success. And one of my favorite videos that I've seen actually starts out with the image of, or the video of, a group down in the Zamboni tunnel, and the engine kicks on for the Zamboni, and it's like coming through, the bad speakers that we all have on our computers at work instead of a nice speaker system. But it really gets your attention, right? And you really are able to create the relationship. I was curious, what are some good stories from your side, like the best videos, or what performs the best for reps as they're trying to actually break through all the noise of every other salesperson trying to, get a hold of that client or that prospect?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's a question that a lot of people ask, like, what's the perfect formula? What's the secret sauce? And I have to say, I think just generally what I found to be the most effective is when the rep is the most authentic version of themselves, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of sellers, especially when you're young and you're early in your career, you're still trying to just figure out what's your approach and what's your style. And I think a lot of times that gets lost over email. I can't convey to you the type of person I am, my motivation, my passion for sports, for instance, through email, or maybe even on a phone call. So the moment you put a camera on, once you kind of get past those initial butterflies, and you realize, like, okay, I'm just talking to my customer here, they start to see you. And I found that the reps who've been able to really embrace that, have fun with it, like, wearing, the gear, whether it's, to promote the organization, or maybe to go wearing something that's going to kind of really connect with your buyer. I mean, right now, everyone's always talking about, you gotta first know your buyer, then they gotta like you, then they gotta trust you. Well, if you want them to know you, you gotta start to connect with them, maybe looking at their LinkedIn and seeing, oh, we went to the same college. Let me put something on that kind of represents their alma mater. So I like the reps, and I like the videos that don't try to get super fancy, because we don't want people to think like, you need to be a videographer to make a good video. All you need to do is just be authentic, be human, and try to bring in those 1, 2, 3 things that are going to connect with that buyer. And the video, I mean, I think the nice thing about video is it is novel, right? I mean, like, there's so many studies about how human communication, 93% of it is what you see and hear, and only like 7% is what the words are. You know, like, that's why if you go to a big keynote, you rarely remember what they said, but you remember how they made you feel, right? And that's the same thing. So I love what video allows the person to do is it captures them visually, and, you know, it triggers to your brain like, hey, this is different. I don't normally see that, which then tells your brain, I want to dig into it. I want to click into it. And boom, once I have you there, those reps who create, and, you know, again, the Kings, you guys have done some amazing things where you create a story. It's like storytelling, right? Like, I'm not just selling, but I'm helping you understand who I am, how this is going to make sense for you, and how I'm going to guide you from A to Z. So I've seen cool examples where folks, I mean, you're in sports, right? Like, you have a bunch of celebrities around you. I've seen cool examples where people be like, hey, you know, let me bring so-and-so into the mix. And all of a sudden a player pops up in the video, and it's just like, we would love to make sure you can renew this season. No brainer, right? So things like that, again, showing the experience, like capturing the energy, you know, even other things that are outside of the cell, like showing how the organization does community outreach, right? Like, I remember when a lot of the hurricanes were going down, and how some of the teams would use our platform to show what they're doing to create space and just shelter for folks in that position. So I'll tell you one thing, like, every day I'm more and more surprised because the use cases never end, right? The way you can connect through video continues to evolve. But I will say, you don't need to think big. You just need to be real. And I always tell people, you know, never let perfection be the enemy of good, because all you need is just to show that you're a human, and you'll start to get that engagement.
It's really the vulnerability of it that allows you to kind of bridge and create a connection. It's really perfect. I'm curious.
Yeah, and I'll just say really quick on that last point you mentioned about vulnerability, especially now, right? Like, where everyone is, you know, was at home, people were losing their jobs, people were struggling on what's going to look like the next, you know, 4, 6, 8 weeks. You know, one of the things that we were telling people was, this is not about selling anymore. This is just about checking in. Like, hey, are you okay? Like, how are things on your side? It's crazy over here. And just having that warm dialogue, we would remind a lot of our sellers that's going to last you lifetimes, right? Because now they're going to remember, like, hey, I missed, you know, I was missing sports. I'm really glad you connected with me. And it's, you know, it's about being just sincere, right? These aren't your best friends, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't just quickly connect with them on a deeper level. Again, be vulnerable, kind of create that, you know, empathy. And we may even talk about that later, but I just think that is something that, again, is so hard to do over a voicemail or over a text-based email. Whereas when you see it, there's that connection.
Love it. Love it. I'm curious. I know FIVO, you guys kind of started with a sports or concert focus first. Chris, I'm pretty sure Experience similarly started kind of with that focus. Sati, did One Mob start with a sports focus, or did sports kind of latch onto it because we have this cool, unique product that translates really well, you know, walking down to the locker room level of a venue like Staples Center, like, is going to grab your attention. I'm just curious, was it first for sports, or did sports just become a use case that gravitated to it?
Yeah, I'm different, I think, than the other guys, because before One Mob, I actually spent my kind of, you know, last decade or so at Salesforce.com. So I wasn't even in the sports space. I was, you know, in the big CRM space, and I really started to learn about, you know, how to build a more seamless sales motion. And obviously Salesforce continues to grow. All these big tech companies continue to do more and more amazing things. But again, where we kind of saw this gap was, you know, and I remember because there's a lot of great things I picked up from Salesforce. And one of the things that I always loved was how there was this kind of consumer mindset influences business and technology behavior. And so for Salesforce, it was like, you know, why does enterprise technology need to be so complicated? Why can't it be as simple as buying a book on Amazon? When we heard that mantra and we started thinking about our business, for us, it was like, well, why is it so easy for me to grab this and take a video and, Snapchat to my, friends or send a quick little video to my parents? But I come to the office and I'm like, again, going back to kind of old school forms of communication. So our whole thing was, I want to be able to connect with you, Evan, in literally 60 seconds, just like I would my friend. But I want to also wrap some professionalism around it, right? Make sure it feels like corporate, make sure it also is tracked. So our initial use case and our initial buyers were, I'm a seller trying to break in and I want to get your response. Very much kind of geared around maybe high-tech use cases, financial service use cases, real estate agents, things like that. Sports actually kind of just was a happy accident. And actually the first team that, gave us a test was the other Kings, the Sacramento Kings. Mm-hmm. But quickly after that, we were able to start to get into some of the other leagues, the MLB, the NHL, working with the Kings, the Ontario as well. And it was really cool because once it happened, it was like, how did we not think about this? I mean, it's such a no-brainer. And I think, Jamie, you might have said this earlier, or maybe you, Chris, about like the whole kind of co-creation. Like when we started getting some of those initial sports teams, they truly helped co-create this platform. I mean, literally, we were back and forth. Hey, well, this is kind of how a maybe high-tech salesperson would use it, but walk me through kind of the flow of a sales rep. And it was beautiful, to be honest, because we were able to build something that, resonated with them, but it also gave us this new insight around sports. And it's been one of our most exciting industries to work with. And it's something that, we truly, myself and our whole company is grateful to be able to be part of that amazing industry.
I love it. If I kind of rewind and go back to, 22-year-old Evan, I think this sports tech intersection, which probably didn't exist way back then, or did in a much smaller lane, this is kind of where I would want to jump in with my career. And I'm sure the three of you would echo that. I'm curious, being on the other side of that, being, executives with these companies, what are you looking for in entry-level candidates? And what are what are the roles that those in our audience should be applying for or gravitating towards to try to get their foot in the door with a company like yourselves? And feel free, I'll leave it open to any of you three. I know I didn't.
Let you guys kick that one off.
Yeah, so obviously the cool thing about working for a tech company is that, we can grow exponentially, which Vivo has over the last 4 years. The thing is kind of, and I'm referencing this to working for a sports team, right? Sports teams have a set of account executives. They have an incoming class of inside sales every year. We don't have that, right? We kind of roll with the punches. And when we identify a need for a role, hey, we need an expert in this because none of us know any of this. None of us have a background in this. Where can we go to kind of look for that person and who brings those skills to the table, but will also fit the culture of what we have built for the last 3.5, 4 years. So with us, I don't want to say there's like a direct kind of application that, hey, like Vivo has a set of interns that come in every single year and let's apply and hopefully get a full-time job. That's not really it. We really grow as the business grows and where we see a need to put someone in there. So with us, I can tell you that kind of, we do have what we would call entry-level positions, and they do a lot with dealing with the day-to-day customer side of making sure that everything is going well with our customers. If they have any issues, they're there to problem solve that. I would consider that kind of a little bit of our, entry level, what you would consider on the sports side, more kind of inside sales-esque. But, we deal with a lot of engineers, and that is something coming from the sports side that I have never worked with engineers in my life. So it was, a very big learning curve trying to explain from my vision what clients need to an engineer for them to then put it on code and build it out, right? So we need product people in between to kind of take everything I'm verbalizing and explaining it to the engineers so they can build out this code so our platform works the way we want it to. So for us, we're kind of all over the place in regards to hiring people. We'll hire product managers. We will hire engineers. We will hire, client services for our team concert clients. And really for us, when we look at candidates, I would say we kind of take a more organic networking approach. It's, hey guys, we need this role. Who has that skill set? Who do you guys know? So if I had one piece of advice for ASCA students or anyone that's out there looking to get into the sports world or specifically sports tech, I know for my company, it's very much networking. Get to know us, get to know what we do. There's a lot of people that always mention they want to work for FIVO, but no one really at the ground level understands potentially what we do, right? They think that, okay, they're a tech company in sports, everything's flashy, they're working with all these teams, but what do we really do? Try to find that out. And not just from me, right? Go connect with an engineer on our side. Find out from their realm what they're doing. Find out from our product people, from our service people. And then really, if you stay top of mind, we will always post our jobs on our website. But it's a lot better to be like, hey, we have this role opening up. It'd be a lot easier that you're top of mind in my inbox, or that you've already gotten coffee with me or sent me a message or we had a Zoom chat. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This person reached out to me. I think they'd be a good fit for that. So that's my personal experience from FIVO. Obviously, it might be different for Sati and Chris, but that would be kind of my recommendation if you were looking to kind of take a look at FIVO for a potential job.
Love it.
Yeah, and I would echo exactly what Jamie had mentioned as well, and certainly that is how we have evolved as a company as well. There are many ways to build a tech company, clearly, but our founder, I'll always remember this. When he wanted to build a company, he wanted to build it like a dumbbell. So we were heavy on sales and we were heavy on engineers. You go sell it and we're going to go build it. And then as we grew, we had to really fill in the middle, right? So, you started operations, and then, that leads to more fans on the platforms. And then that led to more of a customer success team, right? We had to answer, how fans were engaging with our platform. And believe it or not, it didn't always work, right? So there were some items we had to work through with our fans, and our customer success team has done a great job of doing that. And then as you get more fans on the platform, right? So now we've added a data team. So now, we've had data over the last, few years, and what do those analytics look like? So there's more departments now than we clearly had before. And, getting in, with a tech company like the three of ours, it does seem like there's opportunities to, grow within that organization. Just because you start in customer success doesn't mean you're going to end in customer, success. So again, just embrace change as the organizations change and jobs change, and what might interest you today might not interest you, or may be different, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Just be open, to those different opportunities.
Yeah. And I'll say, just to kind of add, networking for sure. I think once we have someone in the door, or if we're working with somebody, I'd say the three most important things that definitely help from a startup standpoint, but I would say even if you end up landing a job at a team, is persistence. I just think right now, a lot of times people try, they hit a wall, and then they back off. And I think right now it's about helping people understand that, especially in a startup or in a smaller organization, you have to keep, grinding. If you go into sales, it's never about if, it's about when. It's never about no, it's about maybe. It's just about continuing to come at it in a respectful way. But persistence to me is so critical, because it's through persistence you start to create a permanence on routine and structure. So I'd say persistence. Number two, imagination. I feel like a lot of times people just forget, there's more, ways to kind of navigate in a situation. And I think it's through imagination you start to find those kind of diamonds in the rough who can become more than what they are, right? They may think they want to be in sales, but then they're now in customer success, or they're in product, or they're in leadership, etc. So never forget that, when we're born, we're so imaginative. And as we get older, we seem to kind of lose that lens. And I think that's so critical. And then the third is just integrity. I think there's nothing, in my opinion, is more important than just doing what you say, right? And honoring and having, being able to deliver on your word. It's not about perfection. I always tell people it's progress. It's not perfection. But if you say you're going to do something, you should be able to stand by it. Because if you lose integrity, it's like ruining your personal brand, and that's hard to rebuild. So
Absolutely. I love it. Love it. Well said. One thing we often associate tech with is disruption, right? That's kind of one of the buzzwords there. And hopefully it's not hit the tipping point and become a word that we shouldn't use anymore. But obviously we're in the middle of a huge disruption, specifically for the sports industry, specifically, I'm sure for your businesses as well. But I'm curious, as tech companies, how do you see your companies emerging from this stay at home period as we kind of hopefully get back to more normal? And I'm sure it's going to be different, but how do you see your companies emerging on the other side of that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I can take this one off, because this is actually one of those kind of silver linings for us, right? I mean, coronavirus was definitely a tough thing to swallow, but it also, I think, started to just help organizations understand that this work from home, it works. You know, if you can develop the right, model and the right, framework at your organization, you can actually do quite a lot from home. And one of the things that we'd always sometimes run into is you kind of have those sellers who are like, yeah, totally, I want to be innovative, I want to be forward thinking. But then you'd have those other sellers who are like, I already have my Rolodex. I know when I meet so-and-so on the golf course, once a week, once a month. Because that's now been removed, and those, especially those in-person meetings are going to be few and far between for some time, you have to, again, just step up your virtual presence. And so for us, I think it was a little bit of just a great time for us to really help companies understand that you can't just think about a sales team anymore. You have to think about a virtual sales team. And what does that mean? How do you build that virtual sales team? How do you connect with them as a staff? And then how do you equip them to connect with their prospects and buyers and teams and fans and season ticket holders? So it's been something that we've always thought about, like, how do we help disrupt? Some people are just comfortable doing the same old. And this is one of those things that it's kind of shocking everybody, but it's through those challenges, I feel like that's when people change. Just like if you're, working out, it's like you put some stress on your body and you're going to see some gains. Same thing here. I feel like this stress is going to allow the new workplace, the future of the workplace, to be more malleable, more, more flexible, more kind of virtual. But I think generally it's going to be a lot more efficient. People are going to be able to do a lot more in the office, at home, everything in between. And I think generally you're going to see a lot of cool technology either kind of be created as a result, or companies that are already doing things really having to step up their innovation, because it's a whole new world. And that to us is actually one of the most exciting things. Like, we've always wanted to be on the forefront. And so we're using this as an opportunity to, again, stay connected, but figure out what are new ways we could add value to our customers and ultimately their customers.
Great.
Yeah, totally agree with Sati as well. I mean, the work from home, we've had that ability, for our employees, but we were very office centric, not a lot of folks, took advantage, of the work from home. It was just part of our culture was, hey, come to the office, and if you need time, for sure, use your remote ability to do so. But it's gone really well. We really haven't skipped a beat, from our culture standpoint, from our communication standpoint. We miss kind of seeing people, but outside in person. But we've maintained efficiency as well. And so I think some folks are recognizing that maybe they do take 1 or 2 days a week now going forward, in the future, to take advantage of that work from home environment. Similar to your LA market, our traffic in Atlanta is very, very poor. And so if I could save 2 hours a day by not having to commute to Buckhead every day, I think that would definitely help my, work-life balance. And I'm sure some other employees would agree with that, as well. And I think as Jamie mentioned earlier too, like, this is definitely just accelerating the need for technology, right? Especially in the ticketing world. Driving more digital tickets, mobile tickets, that experience. And so, I think experience, we are, well equipped to help, those schools and teams that are, looking for that digital experience. But, even, putting experience aside, just embracing, more technology and just really accelerating, that time frame where maybe we thought this would be well adopted in 4 to 5 years. I mean, it's probably ramped up now to 2 to 3 years, just across the board, in general. So we'll be interested. Obviously, we still have to get through it. We're not through it by any means yet, but hopefully there's a accelerated technology adoption, after this whole situation as well.
Absolutely. Working in sports, right? One of the reasons people are drawn to it, and I'm similarly probably in tech and most definitely at the intersection of tech and sports, is it's fun, right? We're talking about industries that are not boring, they're not stale, they're moving fast, they're changing, they're live. I'm curious just to hear from your guys' perspective some of your favorite sports memories, but with that business influence, right? So your favorite working sports memory. And if you have a good story to share with our audience here today.
Yeah, I could jump in there. Obviously, since I come from the team side, I have plenty of actual team, stories. Specifically, when I was working for the New York Yankees, I was able to be at Yankee Stadium for Derek Jeter's last game ever in the Bronx, right? And for those of you that remember that game, it was storybook ending, hits the walk-off in his last at-bat ever to score in a run. The stadium was rocking. Everyone was telling me that the Bronx hadn't been that crazy since the Yankees had won their last World Series in 2009. So working from a team standpoint, that was probably one of the most memorable moments I've had, and one of the moments where you really take a step back and you're like, whoa, look at 55,000 people that paid to be here, and here I am lucky enough to get paid to witness this and be a part of this, right? So from working from a team standpoint, that's one of the memories that sticks out the most. And that's one of those that's like, hey, that's why I want to work for a team, right? As well as probably trying to win a championship with that team. When you come over to like the tech side, there is no one specific memory that stands out, but given that we work with a lot of partners in a lot of different areas, I think it's really cool just as a sports fan to be able to go to all these different arenas and stadiums and check out their environments, right? I'm a huge sports fan. Growing up, I didn't do a lot of travel to go see other sports teams in other states. With this job, it's giving me the ability to go anywhere from a game at MetLife Stadium to see the New York Giants all the way down to see minor league hockey with the Allen Americans, right? So you kind of get a nice, well-versed, rounded sports view of everything that's going on, right? There's a lot more to sports than just the major four leagues, right? You have the collegiate world, you have the minor leagues, and when you get into the minor leagues, not to mention, minor league baseball specifically, there's teams, honestly, I didn't know existed until I got into this role. And then through this process, they become clients, and now you're like, okay, like I literally had no idea there was teams here, but here we are. So I think from that, it's just been pretty cool for me from a personal and as a sports fan to be able to use this job and go out to visit all these different markets and check out their sports teams and their home arenas.
Love it. Chris or Sati, you got a fun memory working in sports?
Yeah,
Sure,
go for it.
Sure. So I'm glad you mentioned working in sports. I'm a Bears and a White Sox fan, so there's not a lot of great moments with those two teams. So working in sports, that was good. I'm glad we clarified that. But I from one of my original startups, we were afforded the opportunity, and we won the rights and distribution to the BCS football games and the BCS National Championship, and then we were able to obtain the right to that full game broadcast and then distribute that as a DVD, a commemorative DVD. So for those of you watching, that's how you used to watch movies was the DVD. And so I was actually had the opportunity to go to Phoenix, go to the Fiesta Bowl, Glendale Stadium. That's where they actually had the first 2007 BCS National Championship game. It was an actual standalone BCS championship game, Ohio State versus Florida. We were able to get field passes. I didn't even know you could be on the field during a game. So that was pretty sweet. And I remember Ted Ginn Jr. returning the opening kickoff, ran right toward me in the end zone, got mobbed by the team. The stadium was so loud. I mean, Ohio State fans, Florida fans. It was a super loud environment. It was just an awesome experience. And then Florida did not take long. They went on and they crushed the Buckeyes. But those are the experiences, right? Those are the type of opportunities that I would never have been afforded if I did not work in the sports field. And certainly good stories for sure.
Love it.
Yeah, and I'll say I think there's two. There's one on actually working with the sellers. So probably one of the most enjoyable things for me is obviously helping organizations and teams start to see the value of video. But when I see an actual seller use our product and then send me a note saying, hey, I finally got this guy to respond to me and I was able to get, a deal done. And because I've been using the platform, I'm getting more notice in the organization. And as a result, I've been able to get promoted, or I actually landed a new opportunity at another organization. And it's given me and my family, this great opportunity. Like that to me has been one of the most exciting things to be a part of, because, obviously you want to help these organizations, grow revenue and close deals, but to help an individual actually, hit their own personal milestones, that's been really cool. Probably one of the most exciting things I've seen. And again, I feel like some of our customers have become friends because I've been able to kind of witness this a multitude of time. From a more kind of personal standpoint, I think it was last year we got invited to the National Sports Forum, and it was at the T-Mobile Arena. And again, kind of to Jamie's point, like I didn't really have a lot of time traveling and checking out all these arenas. And I've seen, beautiful ones like the Mercedes Arena in Atlanta. And, I've been to other cities I've never been to. Like I had never been to Oklahoma, for instance, and I saw a Thunder's game, and just meeting the people is cool. But I remember we were at this T-Mobile Arena, and during the day they had this, this contest where you could pitch your platform, and it was really quick. And we had maybe like a couple minutes to pitch our platform. And I didn't even really think like, oh, what was going to happen. But anyways, we participated, and later that night they invited everyone to the T-Mobile Arena. And that arena is amazing because when you walk in, like it's like this whole Vegas show. But you end up getting in there and everyone's kind of got the fireworks and they're doing the show. And then they had everyone kind of sitting on the stage or on the ice. And one of the guys who was hosting the event was just kind of going through the day. And then he starts to announce these awards. And we found out that we won, and just, we were floored, right? Like wasn't something that we expected being announced kind of in this huge stadium. It just kind of, blew our minds. But that to me was one of probably the biggest highlights I feel like from a sports stance for our company.
That's your own championship victory right there.
Yeah, that was fun.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been a real pleasure. I wanted to end on one note. Obviously, this is a challenging time in our world, and I think we've certainly between being at home, trying to stem the tide of this pandemic that we're facing, and then obviously some of the social unrest being sparked by some of the injustices we're seeing here. I wanted to turn to you, Sati, because I had a chance in researching and preparing for this panel to kind of stumble upon your Empathetic Man podcast. And I was just really curious if you could leave us with some parting words on how we as an industry, specifically in the sports and even in the sports tech world, can be more empathetic as we move forward in our careers and our endeavors. We know that we're always going to have to generate revenue and hit our goals and those types of things, but how do you see us transforming and moving towards that? And just figured you might be able to close us off in that regard.
Yeah, and it's really obviously quite a touchy subject, but I think the thing that we've tried to do, and we started this podcast about a year ago because we felt, when you're talking to another person, it's so easy to get caught up in your own agenda that you forget about what that other person's going through. And empathy, if you kind of define the word, it's about, not just seeing a situation through the other person's eyes, but being able to kind of, hear the way that their background and kind of why they may be feeling their way, being able to then think about how you're feeling, and then ultimately coming up with an opportunity that's going to be a win-win. And, a lot of times when people think about empathy, it's about, I have to now suffer through what you're suffering. And it's not, it's just about understanding. And I think right now with what we're going through, there's a lot of things, myself included, that I will never be able to imagine because of the color of my skin. But that being said, being empathetic gives us an opportunity to do what we are good at doing as humans, which is being social and being able to bond. And so I think right now, if you're trying to sell and you want to be really effective, the better listener you are, the more empathetic you are, that will only make you more effective in your position. And then as a human being right now, you know, when you think about your neighbor or anyone that is suffering, being able to just kind of change that lens and allow that person to not just kind of speak their mind, but for you to actively listen, you know, and hear them out. And whether you agree or not, that's not really important. What's important is that you give them the space to share their mind, to speak their words, for you to give them the opportunity so that they can feel accepted. And then through that dialogue, you'll be able to kind of work through a better outcome. And so that's something that we're trying to do as an organization right now is just lead with empathy, sell with empathy, you know, communicate with empathy, because we know everyone has a perspective. It's not about, you know, you being better than me. It's just about us all coming to an even playing field, because we know right now that that's not the case.
Awesome. Well said. And to our audience, we really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you learned something here, especially about the really growing and vibrant sports tech intersection here. And most importantly, you know, we want to help you launch your careers and be the innovators of the future as we kind of move forward. Certainly will be no shortage of challenges that we have to overcome and continue to deliver unbelievable live experiences for our fans and customers. So Sati, Chris, Jamie, it's been a real pleasure listening to you guys. Our audience, for more information, feel free to visit ascacademy.com or follow us on our LinkedIn for more great content as we put more of these great interviews out from industry experts. So thank you, everybody, and see you soon.
Thank you.